Welcome to the Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom for more than 10 years. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I began raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott from the Believe in Dog podcast. For more than 10 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned in case it could help you too. As the Alternative Dog Moms, Kimberly and I are bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and the brilliant people we're meeting along the way. Now let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Welcome back, Erin.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
I see you too. Wow.
Can you see how tan I am?
I can. You definitely look a little flush.
Tim keeps laughing at me. He's like, "You're still pale as a ghost." I'm like, "Look at my foot. You can see the flip-flop line on my foot."
It just looks like the sun just like sort of kissed you and you blushed and you just stayed that way.
I was slathered in sunblock because I was so paranoid about getting sunburned, but now it doesn't look like I went anywhere.
It's like, good for you. Good for you.
So yeah, it's really beautiful. We had some really good experiences. We ate and drank a lot of good food, and we really missed our dogs.
Yes. So I have questions. So first of all, so you were gone. How long were you gone?
Almost 2 full weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, it's the longest I've ever been away anywhere, ever.
And so first, how many days were you there where you finally could feel like, okay, I can just enjoy myself and not worry about the dogs?
So the first couple days, we were so exhausted from flying and like kind of not eating by accident. And it was like, thank God I don't have to worry about the dogs.
Yeah.
Like I can barely like function right now. And I think after about the third or fourth day, it seemed like Nino really warmed up to the pet sitter and he was kind of snuggling with her and she was, feeling much more comfortable and confident and sending pictures. And so I think we felt really good about that. And
That's good.
he did have one night where his stomach, where he was vomiting, but that was towards the end of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for the most part, other than that hiccup, which was just kind of a one-off, it didn't continue on, and she was texting. So I felt so bad that night. We had been at dinner and she texted us about him vomiting a couple times. And I didn't see it till we got back to our room, which was like 9 o'clock Hawaii time, which was 3 a.m. in Baltimore. And so I was like, I'm so sorry I just saw this, because I realized she would have been texting at like 1:30 in the morning, Baltimore time. And she was still up, like watching over him and was like texting me back in real time at like 3 and 4 in the morning. I was like, oh my gosh, so we just felt really comfortable that, she was doing all the right things, that she was really engaged with those. She was sending us videos of, some of the games they were playing and stuff. So we felt really good about it after like those first couple days.
Yeah.
Here's my binder.
I love that you have a binder.
And it has tabs.
I love that you have tabs. I would totally do the same thing. That is so amazing.
I had a section on contact info. I had a section just kind of on some of their quirks. Like, will eat tissues out of your pockets. So don't leave it around, things like that. And with Nessie, a lot of it was kind of her routine and like the different training cues and, like her manners. It's like she has to sit before she'll go outside and, just things like that. Because I wanted to keep up the consistency for everyone.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with us, the big thing is the crate and the gate and rotate, I should say. And so I had put out a whole section on like if Nessie's on this side and Nino's on this side, here's how you do it, and like different things. And then of course like their daily schedule, their daily meals. With Nino, he needs to get like his thyroid medicine 30 minutes before he eats, and just all trying to like lay out the day and kind of how it flows for us. And then I had a section on our walking, because we have different routes that we take around the neighborhood depending on how much time we have. So, it's like make a right on this street, make a left on this street, and then just some of the other things to watch out for, like no one else in the neighborhood picks up their dog poop. So always watch for your step. And, like Nino usually poops twice on a walk. So that's normal. Like, don't be surprised like that. Nessie's going to freak out if she sees a bicycle, a scooter, an ATV, a motorcycle, a trash truck, any sort of prey animal, a bus, a person jogging. So be prepared. And I have bullet point lists. I have, we have our daily enrichment activities that we do, kind of, and how we switch it up. And then from some of our pattern game classes, I had PDFs from the teacher on how to do the exercises. So I had a section with those and kind of when we incorporate them throughout the day. And then I had a section on notes about our house too, of like, we've been getting ants in the kitchen, and like the trash gets picked up on Tuesdays. We have an old school dishwasher and you might need to run it because of Nessie's food containers. We have like a dehumidifier and, just things like that. Like please run the exhaust fan when you're in the shower. Just things that it's like I was trying to go through, like I spent the last week or two just kind of going through my day really intentionally of like, she won't know that this is where we keep the shower mat because it's kind of hidden, and and I left post-it notes everywhere. Like bath mat is here, and don't turn this light switch off because it'll screw up the power for the whole room. Or it was very exhausting making all of the preparations, but I feel like it contributed to a really smooth time that we were gone. And I even had like an in case of section. So I had an in case Nino vomits page. I had an in case fireworks page.
I love how organized you are.
I was just trying to think through like all the things that have been going on around the house lately. And just had to laugh about this one. So the last day I'm in the office before we leave, we have like this huge deadline. So it's like usually I work like a half day on Fridays. Oh no, I was there till like 7:00 at night trying to get all this stuff.
Oh wow.
So I don't get home till like almost 8:00. And I'm like, okay, we need to throw our laundry in, like get everything together that you won't wash so I can get it all done between Friday and Saturday. So put the first load in Friday night, throw it in the dryer before I go to bed. You can imagine my surprise when I wake up Saturday morning and the dryer is still running. And I'm like, what? That's very strange because it has this like auto sensor. And open up, clothes are still wet. The dryer's running, but it's not hot. Apparently our dryer the day that we're trying to leave for vacation. So now we're trying to like gather everything up, run it up to the laundromat. We're fortunate we have this laundromat that'll, turn all your stuff around in the same day. And, it was like here, and like we have sheets and towels and, and all, and we had to do the same thing when we got back. And Tim did order parts for it and we should hopefully have it fixed. But it was like, could you think of a worse time to have your dryer ready? Like, no other time would do. So, yeah, I feel like all of the preparations that we put into it helped it go really smoothly, and I was really happy about that. I was so pleased with how everything worked out, and I couldn't have asked for a better experience with the dogs and with the pets.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. So I was here.
Yeah. You were still on your mini vacation the last time.
My mini vacation, yeah. It was my staycation.
Yeah.
And I just stayed home.
Well, it's someone else's home, I guess.
Well, that was the last time that I took more vacation time and stayed.
Okay.
Just worked on like little projects that we had for around the house, like painting the the indoor window ledges and going outside and cleaning the windows around on the main part of the house. And of course, now I'm looking at what I did, and I need to clean a few of the windows on the inside, especially ones that have nose art on them. But, little things like that. So I did some, little bit of yard work, a little bit of house cleaning, organization, finished organizing my office, which I'm not in right now. But I will start using it. I do go in and, cuddle up into this big, gorgeous chair that's in there. And I have all my beautiful books. And I'm one of those weird people that I will order a book on Audible. And if I love it, and usually it's series, if it's a series that I love and listen to over and over again, if it's available in paperback, I will just buy the paperback series to have it on my shelf, because I think that eventually the world is going to fall apart and we won't have access to Audible, but I'll still have my books. And I don't know in this post-apocalyptic world where I'm going to find time to sit and read a book, but that's just my business, I guess. So, yeah, my world was kind of just, eh.
I'm so happy to be back in the routine. And I was actually a little rusty like the first 24 hours or so, especially because, again, with the red-eye flights and everything, is like I was running on very, very, very little sleep. But I always have Nino who will remind me. He's the keeper of the daily schedule.
So, you changed your dog's name, allegedly.
Yes. So I'm still struggling with remembering, but in our preparations for going away, we worked with one of the pet communicators that we use and have used regularly in the past. And one of the first things she said to us was, Nessie wants you to change her name, and that her name has baggage with her. And we were thinking that that actually kind of does resonate with us, because she would have been named through the shelter, and she had a rough time in the shelter. And she was literally like 5 minutes away from being euthanized before she was pulled out of the shelter by a volunteer who fostered her. So I can imagine that maybe that name does have some baggage with her. And it's interesting, when our dogs already have a name that they recognize, we usually have kept that name just for consistency's sake, because it's like so much is already changing for them. Let's keep something consistent. That's why we have Nino. And that's even why we spell it weird, because that was how it was given to us. And we just always kind of honored that for him. And the parameters that we were given was that the name was either going to be something with a D or a T, and that we should try different names and see what she responded to. And of course, we find this out about, I don't know, probably less than 2 weeks before we were going away. And we kind of spent that day trying to look at some different names and look online and get a list of things. And nothing was really resonating at that time. And we were also just like trying to do so many things to get ready for the trip that we were kind of like, all right, we just don't have the bandwidth to focus on this right now. So over the weekend after we got back, Tim just called her Daisy, and she just came running over and jumped right up on him.
Oh, I like that.
And then what's funny is there's somebody else in my family who has a dog named Daisy. And so I was like, we're going to have to call her Daisy May. And she did still respond to that one. So we've been trying to make that change, because it's only like literally been for the last few days. And she responds every time that you call her that. So I'm trying to honor her wishes, and she seems to have responded positively in the way we were told she would when we found the name. So
yeah, that is so awesome.
But yeah, it's very hard to kind of like train our minds to do that when you're in that habit of having called her this for so long. But
yeah,
I'm probably going to slip up, but I'm trying.
I'm struggling calling my dogs by the correct name. lately.
Because you
And
have so many.
yeah, and I'm constantly yelling out a name and the dog's like right there looking at me like, "What?" And I realize, "Oh yeah, I'm wrong." So I have been working very hard to take a step and like acknowledge like, "No, I'm talking to Bella, not Zoe, or Buffy, not Bella." Apollo's easy, but the 3 girls, it's just very somewhat similar with, 2 Bs and then 2, Zoe, Buffy.
Yeah.
It's screwing me up, but we're getting it together. Yeah.
Yeah, with Daisy and Nessie, it seems like it's an easy transition,
Mhm.
but we're so used to, Nino and Nessie, and
Mhm.
that's the part that's hard. It's usually when we're saying Nino and that we
Yeah.
screw up and use the old name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, this summer, this will be the first Super Zoo that I don't attend in
Yeah.
years. Well, not counting the pandemic, in years. And, I'm waiting to feel the what's the word?
FOMO.
Yeah, I'm waiting for FOMO to hit, and I probably get a little bit, and I had a few moments where I'm like, "Well, maybe I'll just fly down for the day," but again, that just doesn't make any sense, and if you do fly down, well, unless you actually have a game plan, it's a terrible idea because the day will go by very fast, and then you have to leave for the airport, and there is no, like, leaving at the last minute to the airport, because even though I mean, if you did it in the middle of the week is I've done it where I've left for the airport, like, an hour before my flight and made it just fine. I made it, and not only that, but I got partway to the airport and realized I forgot something, had to call the hotel, have them call housekeeping to find it, go have the cab driver drive me back, wait for me, beg for him to wait for me, go inside, find security, finally got my thing, go back, got to the airport, and still made my flight with no problems.
Oh my god, that's
Uh
giving me so much anxiety.
And now that's why it's like when I pack to leave a room, I make the beds to make sure nothing of my stuff is caught anywhere, and I check every inch, and I try to keep all of my things isolated to a certain area rather than having everything unpacked all over the hotel room
I have a
because
story.
I'm afraid. Okay, tell me your story.
So we visited 3 different islands in Hawaii, and 2 of the places that we went to were traditional hotels. But one
Mhm,
of the places we stayed at was more like a timeshare, vacation rental style of place. So like you have a full kitchen and you had laundry there. And my mom had kind of set this all up so that we'd have a chance to wash our clothes during the trip because we were going to be gone for so long. And so we what's funny is the washing machine and the dryer were, I don't know, like half the size of what I'm used to, a third of the
Oh.
size of what I'm used to. We ended up having to do like 4 loads of laundry. And yeah, we left with all of our jeans in the dryer and didn't realize it until several days later.
Oh, wow.
So that happened because I'm like, "Where are my shorts? Where are my shorts?" And I couldn't find them. And we had also brought long pants for when we went up to the Mauna Kea summit where it was 38 degrees, and
Wow.
we had washed our jeans, and Tim's like, "Oh, my jeans aren't in here." And that's when I realized the last load that we did was, like, jean-based.
Were you able to get it back?
Yes, I called the hotel, they actually had, or the facility, the rental place, they actually had a lost and found person, and he went, and I guess they hadn't turned our room around yet. I guess nobody was scheduled to stay there anytime soon, so it hadn't been, like, gone through,
Mhm.
and everything was right in the dryer, and he boxed it up and FedExed it, sent me an invoice, and I got everything in FedEx yesterday.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
And apparently there was a pair of Tim's drawers in there too that we didn't realize, so I felt really bad that somebody had to handle that, but they were clean.
So, yeah. So, yeah. I don't I sort of I'm going to Feed Real Summit. I don't think I'm gonna go to SuperZoo. but I'm kind of bummed because this is the first year that I know that there was a year that Karen spoke at SuperZoo, but this will be the first year that Rodney and Karen spoke at SuperZoo,
Yeah, I
which
was
is kind of
excited.
iconic because I remember, I think the year before I started going to SuperZoo, Rodney got kicked out of SuperZoo by putting a funny sign like on Purina, and they got all butthurt about it, and he had to leave.
Oh, how the times have changed.
I know.
Well, I'm really glad for them to get that validation in such a mainstream, event.
Yeah, it's crazy, and, I invited them to come back on to the podcast because I thought it would be fun to just talk about all the changes within the raw feeding community, in the fresh food industry with, kibble brands
Now
coming out
launching.
with their
Yeah.
version of fresh food, and no now realizing so many people who are in the raw feeding community who feed fresh pet and, well, I made a comment about because I think it was on one of Rodney's posts where I think it was like share something that you no longer believe or something like that. And one of the things in my little thing, I was like that I no longer believe like these things are healthy for my dogs. And one thing was fresh pet. And and I got several comments. We were like, "What's wrong with fresh pet? Did something happen to fresh pet?" And it was just like, "Oh." And other people were like, "Yeah, fresh pet has never been a good food." And so this is like the first time people are realizing that. And I just thought it was commonly known
Yeah.
within the raw feeding community. It is not. But, I think this turn towards, people wanting to learn more about what they're feeding their dogs. I posted something, I think it was on Monday, asking people, "What do you struggle with the most when it comes to feeding your dogs?" And I was surprised. I expected to see cost, and I expected to see balance, but I was surprised at how many people, and again, I shouldn't be surprised, but I feel like I've been doing this for so long, and I just have such a casual attitude about raw feeding that I'm still blown away when I come across someone who is just stressing over every single thing that they're doing and not feeling like they're not doing it good enough and freaking out. And I was just kind of like, where are you getting this feeling from? Is it because you're in these raw feeding groups? Is it because you're trying to, like, you're too hard on yourself just in general? But I was surprised by that. But then there's also the people who justifiably are very overwhelmed because they have a dog that's like an insanely picky eater, or a dog that has tons of, food sensitivities. Or someone commented their dog has environmental allergies, but how the diet is whatever they're fed can make it even worse. So if they're eating, what warming or hot proteins that makes their environmental allergies, it triggers them more. Whereas, cooling proteins are better, but a lot of cooling proteins are the expensive ones, like rabbit, for example, um, is an expensive protein. So it was an interesting and eye-opening discussion. So, I mean, so we'll see if they'll come back on. I put it out there, and they're checking their calendar.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, and then I did receive my copy of the list for treats.
Yes, from
Um,
Susan Thixton.
from Susan Thixton, and I I I mean, I wasn't surprised by anything on the list. I think it's kinda cool that, she does that. I do know that a lot of people were really I saw a lot of people who were really excited about, being on the list, and so I always think that that's so cool. It's just a nice, addition, especially for people who can't feed, raw or cooked or any of the commercial brands, but still want to do something better to be able to have a treat list,
Yeah.
because there is a lot of crappy treats out there.
Oh, god, yeah. I have to go pick up my copy of the list. I saw it came out, but honestly, like, everything from the whole month of June is a blur, so Oh, I do have some unfortunate news. We were talking about events, and I don't think I'm gonna make it to the Williamsburg event this weekend.
Oh.
I didn't realize, I guess, that it was literally, like, within days of me getting back, and honestly, like, the idea of now spending 5 hours in a car
Mhm.
and sleeping in a hotel and being away from my dogs again after just getting back to normalcy. Plus, I was just like, I don't think I have the bandwidth right now. I'm still recovering.
No, I completely understand. Last weekend, and this is just like for me one day, on the 4th of July, getting up super early in the morning, taking the dogs for a walk, playing with the dogs, feeding the dogs, doing CBD oil, and my dogs aren't fans of me putting it on their gums, so I'm sort of like tracking them down and putting it on their gums, so they're like, "Oh, here she comes again," and giving them chews. And then I went to a friend of mine who they own a pub. We went there. It was closed down, so it was just us at the pub, so we hung out there for a few hours, socializing, and then getting home, and then it just a lot was going on, and then, finally, I fed the dogs late thinking it'll make them a little tired, and it did, and gave everybody their last dose of CBD oil, and ended up having to medicate Bella and Zoe. Zoe used to not have I mean, she wasn't a fan, but she used to didn't have problems, but she was trying to crawl into Johan's lap
Oh.
where, because I left the room, and he was like, "What, is she okay? Did you give her something? Because she's trying to crawl in my lap." And I was like, "Oh, well, usually it'd be my lap that she's crawling into." So I was trying not to have hurt feelings like, "You don't feel safe with me anymore, Zoe?" But I was like, "No, it'll kick in," and it did, and all the dogs were in the room with me. And I think Apollo was the first to fall asleep. He's just unbothered. Buffy was like, it's I don't like it, but Apollo seems to be fine, so I'm gonna go to sleep too." Zoe went to sleep next, and then Bella was the last one who was laying on the bed next to me, just looking around like, why isn't everyone else freaking out? And then eventually she realized it, I guess none of the noise was coming in the house. So she went to sleep, but I was still up until like past 1 in the morning. And so all of that to say, I could not even bring myself to socialize with my friends the next day because we had another event to go to, and I just ended up staying home. So I couldn't imagine going just from that one day, because the 4th of July is a lot when you have dogs. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot for a lot of different reasons, but when you have dogs, it's just a lot going on. And the idea of if I had to then go to an event where I'm socializing with strangers, I would just, and not only that, but had to drive to one, a distance, and I just, no.
Yeah, I'm super bummed to miss Connor Brady and Rita
Yeah.
Hogan. If I could teleport there, I would do that. But I'm like, I literally, like, can't stomach the idea of having to sleep in another hotel.
Is it a 2-day event?
It's a one-day event, but starts so early and ends so late that I'd have
Yeah,
to stay 2 nights.
yeah.
I couldn't.
I know the idea of not only that, but you getting up insanely early in the morning, driving there, staying all day, and then driving home
Yeah,
at
that's
night.
not feasible. Traffic does not make that feasible, really. And I think it's supposed to rain again on Friday, and I drove down there last year in the rain. It was so I just can't. I mean, I had a hard enough time getting off, like, a 5-hour flight and then being like, "And now I gotta get on another one."
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So we actually got home on 4th of July, and so we were,
Oh.
like, walking in the door at, like, 6 p.m. the night of 4th of July, and then trying to keep everybody calm that night,
Mhm.
with extra CBD, and I like these treats from the Herbsmith company called July 3rd that have
Mhm.
some extra sleepy stuff in them,
Oh,
and
nice.
so Nessie, I had put her in the crate momentarily, and then she actually really settled down in there, so I ended up she was actually much more calm in the crate about the
Mhm.
whole thing, and Nino's okay. Nino used to get upset when we had Penny because Penny would get so upset, and I think that
Mhm.
made him upset, but
Yeah.
without anybody else freaking out about it, he's just kind of like, okay, I don't like this, but I'm in bed and that's my safe place and everything's okay. And I hear it, but okay. Like he doesn't panic or pant or get distressed, but you can just kind of, you see the eyebrows just kind of like, what was
Yeah.
that? What was that?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, our neighborhood, I mean, the fireworks went on for almost 2 hours straight.
I mean, we're lucky because they're loud, but they're off in a distance. It's not like they're next door or,
That's good.
right, whatever the case be. It's not like the house that's next door. If they had fireworks, I just don't think they do. They have a dog. Usually people that have, I mean, not some people, dogs don't care, but they had friends over, but they weren't doing fireworks. The woman across the street from me is retired, nice, quiet lady. Then we have the Centennial Trail. And this year, thankfully, no one decided to use the Centennial Trail to light off their fireworks. Because in past years, you go down the trail and it's just a hot mess of garbage.
Yeah.
Because they never take anything home with them. So no one did that this year. So the Centennial Trail was fine. And the house that's behind us is another older couple that doesn't do fireworks. So it was next to us, it was fine. But you still heard it off in the distance and couldn't see anything, but heard it off in the distance.
Yeah, the people in our neighborhood we know do have dogs and they still light off fireworks.
Yeah.
Tim's like, are the British still coming? Like, apparently.
Yes. So, yeah. So while you were gone, a little tiny thing happened, a little shift in the force when the BK Pets came out with a video that said something to the effect of they were wrong about holistic pet health. And this is a 2.5 hour long video. Someone's sent it to me. And then, I mean, I think about 3 or 4 people sent it to me and asked me my thoughts. And a couple people tagged me about things. And I wasn't going to say anything because I'm not watching a 2.5 hour long video. I'm just like, I mean, that's
Who
not even
has that kind of time
yeah,
in their day?
that's not even a dog walk. That's not even like, oh, I can just walk the dogs and listen to this. No, I am not going to do it. I listened to it at 1.5 speed and it was still took like forever to get through the video. And I ended up actually, I have a Reddit thread. I joined a Reddit thread where people were talking about it, and I shared my thoughts there. And they weren't horrible. I don't hate them or anything like that. I just found, and of course, time has been able to go by, and I've just thought about it here and there as it's come up, and I found the video unnecessary. I mean, well,
Okay.
granted, there are some parts of it.
I will double down with you on that.
There were some parts of it that was like, why didn't you say this back then when people were like going, what's going on? Like when you brought up your thing about raw milk, why didn't you explain all this back then? Why did you make it seem like, why did you gaslight everyone as if they were wrong for asking and call people snowflakes and be basically very rude to people in your comments who were just trying to understand where you were coming from? I mean, granted, there were other people who were being rude too, but there were plenty of people, myself included, that just wanted to understand, did you get some new information? What veterinarian are you following? What doctor are you following? What happened? None of that. They didn't respond to comments, except for people who were like, oh, I don't blame you or good for you. It's okay to change your mind. They responded to them. And then, they did occasionally snide comments to other people. But anyway, then there's their whole diet thing where they're not going to do raw anymore. Why didn't they say all this about it was too expensive, blah, blah, blah? Then, and also, to be honest, the whole thing could have been handled in like a 5-minute video, 10 at the most, where they just basically said, hey, our lifestyle has changed. I'm going back to school. We don't have the time to do meal prep for DIY, and all of our money is going into paying for my education. So we can't afford commercial raw, and we're not getting the deals that,
You may think we are.
that you think we are to be able to get free commercial raw. I mean, and to be perfectly honest, I can understand. I mean, I think that there are probably some brands out there that would give people food, especially someone with their platform, but I don't know who they are and I'm not seeing them. I'm seeing places like Sundays for Dogs giving people food. But Mave is another one I've seen giving people food, but I don't see, you know, like raw feeding Miami or, Oma's Pride or, Green Juju. And I'm not throwing out these names as if they're bad for not doing so, but seeing a small raw food brand, fork over the investment to give someone free food is not something that I've seen, because that's a pretty expensive investment.
Yeah.
Whereas what's the return on that? I don't, you're basically hoping and praying that you are going to get a bunch of customers and stuff back by doing that.
Right.
That being said, it's like they could have just said, hey, this is what's happening. So we did a lot of research. We talked to people that we think are experts in nutrition and health. And we thought about, what can we do? And this is what we're going to feed our dogs going forward. We still think that fresh food is important, so we're going to do this as well. But, our content is going to stay with what we're actually doing. So it'll shift from, fresh food to more traditional stuff, since that's where we are right now. But instead of doing that, so maybe 5 minutes, do that. Then you do 2 hours and 25 minutes of trashing everything that has to do with raw feeding, because there were negative people in the raw feeding community saying mean things. And you decided somehow that if other people were saying that if you're feeding kibble, you shouldn't own a dog, or people who are feeding kibble are poisoning dogs, you somehow think that because some random person is saying this, and this is not like this a loud message in the raw feeding community. I've seen people say that, but it's the tiny, tiny minority. So you're saying that because if a couple of people said really harsh things like that, they somehow internalized it and decided that their followers were getting that message from them. And I was just like, never seen them say anything like that. But I didn't watch all of their content. So maybe I got also the impression that when they discovered raw feeding, they went gung-ho, balls to the wall, throw everything in the kitchen sink at your dog type of thing. And instead of taking the time that a lot of people take of like learning about things and making steps, when I discovered fresh food and all, I mean, the first thing I did was I reduced the amount of topical flea and tick treatment to where I was splitting 1 tube between 3 dogs, and then I would use like a natural spray that had lavender essential oils in it. That was the first, quote unquote natural thing I did. Then after that, I started asking questions about vaccines. So I've never been, you know, one to say I'm never going to vaccinate again. I just wanted to say I want to know what I'm vaccinating my dogs for and have the opportunity to say no. Like, I think that this is important, but I don't want to do this and this. And then also say, I'm not going to do it every year, or every 3 years. I feel more comfortable doing it every 4 to 5 years and not doing it for sick dogs or senior dogs. And that's my comfort zone. And so, I mean, and that evolved over time, but raw feeding was pretty much the last thing that I did on this journey as far as when I was trying to embrace healthy things. So it took me a while to get here. I think I probably started doing things in 2010, and by 2013, I was now learning about raw feeding and going down that path. So, and it seems like what they did is they learned about something on Wednesday, and by Friday, they had thrown out all the kibble
Yeah.
and stocked their fridge with a bunch of food and made this elaborate meal, and their dogs are like, yeah, no. And then that really upset them. And that was another trend along this video, was how emotional they both were.
Yeah.
I I was so taken aback
Yeah.
because on one hand, I know how rough any social media community can be, not just a raw feeding community. I know how rough it can be. And I can only imagine what it must be like when you have over 500,000 followers. Now, there's question about whether or not they actually have over 500,000 followers because their engagement doesn't reflect their follower count. I don't know, because I don't know. I'm not, I'm not savvy enough in that. I have noticed that, for someone who has over 500,000 followers, you get a post and you get 4 to 6,000 reactions on it. To me, with my 12,000 followers, I think that's amazing. So I'm like, wow, look at how many things they have. But when you think about the fact that over 500,000 dog lovers are following them, but only 6,000 see their content, it's like either they're being shadow banned or their followers, they might have been getting a bunch of spam followers along with the actual followers. But yeah, it was just, they were the emotion that and the crying, the confession of self-harm, or, I guess the temptation of
Contemplation of
self-harm.
yes.
Yeah, of self-harm. And the a few times of, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you too, where I was just like, what's happening? What's happening? I mean, and I don't mean to laugh like, haha, look at, I'm just like, I was so taken aback because I think it would be kind of like if we did a left-hand turn and started, complaining about our prospective partners, and it turned into a relationship podcast. And or maybe something like religious, if we just went down a religious route and all of a sudden pulled out a Bible and started reading I mean, it would just, and it didn't last long because it detoured and then it went back and then everything was like the energy, it shifted again. And so I was just like, what just happened? What's happening? I don't understand. So
Yeah.
I have so many issues. I felt like they only leaned on one expert, and that's Dr. Mike, the guy who got in trouble for, during COVID for going on a yacht, you know, excursion with a bunch of bikini clad women and nobody was wearing a mask. And so he got canceled. That's how he came into my radar, because I was thinking how, I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was crazy. Like, you can't do anything. Like, and I was just thinking, well, if I'm going to do anything, everyone has to check their phones at the door, because everyone's doing pictures and stuff and videos of each other and posting it online, and then everyone's getting in trouble and canceled. But, and their, I guess, disdain of RFK and
I guess that was what I was struggling with, were these bits where other content was being, like, spliced in, and I'm like, "Well, I don't know what this has to do with that," and it
and how it had nothing to do with dogs.
yeah, and even the long journey about the personal drinking of the raw milk
Yes.
and I was like, "But we were talking about it's very, it was quite a personal catharsis for them, I guess, but and I just had to sort of chuckle to myself at the part where they're breaking down, like, "Oh, these are the different marketing tactics that we were using, but maybe we weren't even knowing that we were using them." But then, like, you're using it again by using these clickbaity
Yes.
headlines of, like, "We've changed
Yes. It was just
mind."
like what
But
where
then
they were,
half of it was, "But we still do feed fresh food, and we're still, like,
mhm.
doing the," and so it's like, so what you're just
What was the
I
point of all of this? I
yeah.
mean, yeah, but yeah, the appeal to nature, the leaning on, the cherry picking. I mean, I thought it was interesting that he was cherry picking information. She
About his
said,
cherry
well,
picking.
what if I, he accused people of cherry picking information. She was like, well, what if people said that what you're doing now is cherry picking information? And I just sort of walked away from that segment of, rules for thee, but not for me type of that marketing tactic, I guess. There was a lot of that where, or, using a paintbrush to judge an entire community in the worst way possible. So, your experience within the fresh food community wasn't the great people that you met, the people you interviewed, the people who supported you on your book tour. So all of those people from this video, what they're bullying people who feed kibble, they're all anti-vax, they all attack and demonize veterinarians. It's just sort of like, that's not the case. Yes, there are people who do that, but it's not everybody. And I just felt like, for anyone who follows them, who was interested in fresh food and things like that, and stepped into the raw feeding community and basically was attacked, which is many people's experience when they're new to raw. I just felt like they sort of like, yes, us too. It's just horrible over there. They're anti-vax and there's no science, because their tagline now is transitioning from holistic to evidence-based, as if holistic isn't
Evidence-based.
evidence-based.
Well,
The
the word holistic always makes me like, cringe because it can mean different things to different people.
Mhm. Well, it can. I walked away with questions of why did you guys choose to do it this way? Because I feel like you could have changed course without burning this bridge. And maybe they felt like, this was genuinely, this is just how they feel, but it just didn't feel like it. It felt like they were reaching for justification. Because why not, with as many veterinarians out there, the scat vet being the main one that I can think of, the ones that were behind the DCM, they're not pro raw. They're with as many veterinarians out there, and as many articles that are out there. I know of two that are on Psychology Today. They're old, but they're there, um, that are anti-raw. Why wouldn't you use that as your support for why you're doing what you're doing? And that's what amazed me. Or my thought was, because one example that I gave when I wrote somewhere of him saying, okay, so you chose to see something about the healthiness of raw milk, and you decided that that's all I'm going to consume for an extended period of time. Not as much as 30 days, 'cause I remember him saying, and the next I was going to do a 30-day fast, but he was primarily drinking raw milk, and she was like trying to remind him to eat whole food. And he got sick. And from that, he decided raw milk is terrible for everyone. And I've thought about the time when I made myself scrambled duck eggs and learned immediately that I am allergic. And I know it's not allergic, it's allergic, but I'm just going to say it that way, to duck eggs. And it was a horrible afternoon for me. But that doesn't mean I won't feed my dogs duck eggs. I'm not now thinking everyone should stay away from duck eggs. And I'm sure I can find someone out there that would say, yeah, duck eggs, no, humans shouldn't be eating duck eggs. No one should be eating duck eggs. I'm sure there's someone out there. But I would look more at, like, with that situation, were you drinking too much raw milk? Was that normal? Did you go someplace where it told you were supposed to drink that much raw milk? And if someone else was drinking that much raw milk, what's the difference between you and them that they can do it just fine, but you weren't able to? It's just sort of like, I would think that that would be a more interesting set of information than I did this to myself with no information or limited information, because again, it feels like they hear something and they're like, yes, that's it. And then they go full
Yeah,
speed
like
ahead with it.
extreme, like
Yeah. And
into
then
that. Yeah.
something
Like
bad
there's
happens.
no
And then they're like, oh my God, it's terrible. We were wrong.
yes, yes.
And it's just
I
like,
mean, at one point they talked about them again, personally, not their dogs, personally, doing a elimination diet in the period around the time they got married where they cut out all different types of things. And they're like, and that's not sustainable. And my thought was an elimination diet isn't meant to be sustainable. It's
no.
meant to bring down the inflammation. Then you start reintroducing things and see how your body reacts to see what you're like. It's not meant to be
Yes.
sustainable. And yeah, it just seems like a very, like, all or nothing kind of a
Yeah.
way of being, and I'm so not. I'm such a moderation person. I'm such a, like,
Yeah.
gently kind of introduce things and make changes small and one at a time, so, yeah, it was all like it seems so bizarre to me to kinda, like, know that you're doing things that are kind of, like, extreme and then yeah, like you said, like, being like, "Oh, oh my god, don't do that." And like, well and I just again go to, like, Tim and I did keto diet. It was
Yeah.
amazing for him. And I struggled with it more. I need more carbs in my life. I know people who do go vegan and feel amazing. I know other
Mhm.
people who go vegan and are like, oh, I don't feel good. This wasn't right for
Mhm.
me. I need, meat in my life because I'm getting nutrients from. Like everybody's body is so different. And it's like I would never like, I'm gluten-free most of the time, and, but it's like, I don't think everybody needs to be, but I
Yep.
see the difference in myself when I am.
Mhm.
And it's just I don't know, I guess it's part of why I struggle with sharing some of what I do because I don't ever wanna seem like, "Oh, just because 'cause I'm doing this, you should do it too." I
Yeah.
just always want people to know that there's different options out there for
Mhm.
you, for your dog, like, that there's just all these different things that you can try and see how it works for you and for your dog, and I'm all about the options. I like having options.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I found the whole thing just kind of, yeah. I mean, I did agree with a few things. I mean, I agree that the raw feeding community can be pretty intense, and I feel like it goes in waves of whatever people are fighting about. Like when I was new to raw, it was about vegetables, and as I got more into it, it became about balance and whether or not we should be balancing to the absolute macro and micronutrients. And now it's just everyone's just mad. But I also feel like it's a microcosm of the world that we're in where
Yeah.
everyone is mad. So I think it can be hard to create content in that space. I think the only reason why I'm doing is because I don't get involved in anyone's, issues. I delete comments, I delete nasty comments so that people don't feel like they have to go back and forth with someone. I just don't create this or allow a space for it, or I try not to. But I also agree with them about the canine nutritionist, and I've said that here before. Of I think that there are plenty of people out there who are taking the time to educate themselves beyond the various, you know, Feed Real Summit, or I'm sorry, Feed Real Institute course, or the Billinghurst course, or the various courses that are out there. The Holistic Pet Health Coaching course by Dr. Ruth. There are people who are taking all of these things, but they're actually also looking into local colleges and really taking this seriously as far as expanding their education and continually educating themselves. And I find that the people who are doing that, they are kind of quiet. They're not, they're busy. They're busy with their clients, and they're busy educating themselves and just learning about everything that they can so they can support their customers, but also working with their clients' veterinarian. So they're not pretending like they're a vet. They're working with their client's veterinarian. Unfortunately, there's a segment of that community that is in the groups and in people's comments sharing inaccurate information, sharing potentially dangerous information. I mean, I don't know what courses these people have taken, but there are a couple of groups that are very big on fasting dogs and cats, or feeding them diets that are high in carbs or just high in like basically plant-based diets in order to cure disease. And they are claiming to be able to cure cancer this way. They're claiming to cure pyometra through fasting, and they're discouraging people from going to the vet. They're encouraging people. They're basically encouraging a message of that's very anti-vet. And if anyone speaks up about it, they will come for you. I've seen it happen where it's like just a rabid group of people just like in the comments just coming for you. So I think, unfortunately, because there's no governing body for this group and no one that they have to report to, there's no risk of them having their license stripped away type of thing, or
It's the
certification
Wild
stripped
West,
away.
yeah.
Yeah, and they're not policing each other. So, because even like I posted something about this when I was talking about it, and two people responded defending people who are trying to help people dogs. And I'm trying to explain to them, no, I understand that you're trying to help. And I'm sure you're doing a great job. But there are other people who have those exact same initials on their profile, and they are not doing a great job. But you guys aren't calling them out. You're defending yourselves, but you guys aren't calling these people out. There's no one to call them out. So the average person doesn't know a good CPCN versus a bad CPCN, because anyone can take this course. It's a great course. I learned a lot, but one person brought up a great point of, is it really a certification if there is no pass fail? Like, there's no opportunity for you to fail this course and then have to take it, like go and pay for it and take it all over again. You can take the test until you pass it. And, so it's just one of those where eventually you're going to pass it. So is that really preparing you significantly to actually start a business where you're a nutritionist? Oh, and apparently Canada is cracking down on people who are doing this. Their veterinarian association is starting to look into social media posts by people who claim to be canine nutritionists.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, someone from Canada reached out to me and told me about it, and I was just like, because I've been wondering if it would happen. I think in our country, all of this is reviewed. Basically, it's on a state by state basis. There's no federal department that's going to go around checking under people's tires. So it'll be, I think if there starts to be reports of dogs being hurt, which is, did you see that story out of New York where they ruled? Yeah, you've been gone. This is usually the stuff that you give to me.
Well, I was very trying to be disconnected
Good for
while
you.
I was away. I
Well,
needed that.
a judge in New York ruled that dogs are family members, which
Oh,
opens
I
up
did
the
see that.
possibility of lawsuits for emotional distress if someone's dog is hurt or killed if in someone else's care. And
Okay,
so
I did see that. I did see that.
so there are like all kinds of, implications of that, including, people will start having to insure themselves. There might have to be look into malpractice insurance. The cost of all of these things will make the cost of care go up, but it also will impact these professionals that call themselves nutritionists, because if you formulate a diet for someone and that dog gets sick, granted, there might be some questions of, did you actually follow the recipe, or you didn't tell me that your dog was allergic to ABC, or, there's all kinds of back and forths, but it's going to be a pain on both sides to have to navigate that
Yeah.
type of conflict. So I thought that they brought up some good points with that, but I think they lost me when they said that the average person couldn't read a study and that they needed to go to school and take at least a course in biology to read a study. And I was like, oh, let me introduce you to Erin Scott.
Well, I mean, I did go to college, and that was part of what I did in college, but it's also what I do professionally.
Yes. It's just like, well, it's like, I feel like if you have a study and you have an internet connection, you can read the study and Google what you don't understand. And if someone wants to take the time, if anything, they would have kept me if it would have been more of, the average person is not going to take the time to fully read and comprehend a scientific study. That I agree with, because it does take some time, because it's going to take you down a million rabbit holes. I remember reading a study alongside Dr. Lori Kozier. It was one of the, it was like a DCM adjacent study that they did. And we were going over it, and I can't remember if we were on Zoom or if we were on a call, but I immediately saw an error that they made, because they said, Darwin's and something about their pork recipe. And I was like, Darwin's has never had a pork recipe. And I found out where they might have gotten this information from, because someone else, like a raw feeder, a raw food company out on the East Coast, had it on their website. And I called them and told them that. And they're like, and I told them, it's like, no, I was a customer for years. It's like, I can call Gary right now and have them contact you. Uh, they don't have a pork recipe. They've never had a pork recipe. And after that, I think Lori, I think she discovered like 5 errors. And so it's just the average person may not know that that they're errors, but it does. It takes some commitment to sit down and read a study.
And sometimes it's what's like not included, as well as what is included.
Yeah, there's so many things. I've Krista Powell of Vibrant Canine is the one who basically gave me kind of the shortcuts to reading a study, the things to first look at, like who's behind it, who do they work for, who did they work for, how many participants are in the study. Is it, a tiny little group or a huge group? How much time was a study? Because I think they did a study about feeding dogs a plant-based diet and how great it was, but it wasn't. It was like a few months, and it was a handful of dogs. And so it's just like, yeah, a few months, any dog can be fine on a plant-based diet.
Right.
I want to know where this dog is 5 years from now on this diet, all of them. And I want to see quarterly blood work. I want to see weight. I want to see everything. How are they doing? And granted, there are going to be dogs out there that thrive, and there are going to be dogs that don't. But it's like, let's have an honest conversation about it. But that's an aside. So, yeah. So I guess the BK Pets took their toys and left the playground. They are no longer our friends.
Except for all the things they are still doing, like using all the non-toxic products and feeding fresh food, just not raw food. And yeah.
I kind of feel like the second they want an engagement boost, we'll see a picture of them, that just says, like, I don't know, why CBD oil is bad for dogs, or, I feel like they're just going to go. Oh, one more thing. Okay. So this is my conspiracy theory, and I admit that I could be 199% wrong about this. I do not believe that anyone sent them a cease and desist about raw milk. I just don't. It makes no sense, because I remember that whole thing. They did not mention any brand names. I should say the 2 brands that I know of, the 2 main brands that I know of, I feel like are run by very, very intelligent people who would recognize that you can't send a cease and desist or a defamation or any type of threat around that when they never said anything about you. Now, there are probably brands out there that would be like, nope, I'll do it anyway. I just don't know who they are. But it made me wonder, is this really something that happened, or is this more like in line of, look how mean these people in this community are? They don't even want us to talk about things, even though we didn't. Because and he went on his rant, and how dare they call Dr. Mike an influencer doctor? He, and just in the dropping the F word and stuff like that. And this, I just felt like that was pretty performative, and I don't buy it. But I could be wrong. But I don't think I am. But I could be.
I'm just letting my face speak.
Yeah. Okay, but that's all I have to say about them.
Have you watched anything good lately?
I am in the process of watching. Oh, yes. I watched season 1 of Mr. Robot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that the one from a few years back?
Yeah.
Okay,
with Christian Slater.
Yes, we watched the first season of that, but I don't think we ever watched the rest of it.
Yeah, I think I have enough. Even though I know that I think there's 3 more seasons. I think it's 4 seasons. But I feel like season 1, they could have just ended it, and it would have been fine. It'd be like, oh, that was really good. I might tune into the first episode of the second season. I don't know. But I was really into that over the past week, and just sitting and watching that. That's pretty much it. Oh, and I went to the movies, though, with my friend, and we saw The Ballerina. That was a John Wick movie.
Oh, okay.
And I like violent shoot 'em up movies. I love them. With I can't remember his name right now.
Keanu?
Nope, the other one.
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham, yes. Jason Statham is my jam. I do love Keanu Reeves.
He's my jam, too.
I don't know. Jason Statham is just wonderful. So, and like he has a movie called like The Machinist, I think it's on Amazon Prime. So I'll be watching that this weekend. And it's basically, I mean, all of his movies are basically the beekeeper with the different. It's like that other guy that did the Taken movies,
Yeah.
Liam Neeson. Like
Yeah.
he has his Taken movies, but he has a few non-Taken movies that are very Taken vibes.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I just like so. But anyway, the ballerina. When it was over, my friend and I, we always just sort of tune into each other, and we go to lunch afterwards, and we have our movie breakdown. And I was just like, that was too violent. That was too violent because there was a part where the violence, first of all, lasted for so like certain. Well, I shouldn't say the violent scenes, like a fight, would last for so long, where you're just like want to look at your watch, like, are we still doing this? And there were things where it didn't. I got out of my because usually I don't worry about like the logic of things. I'm not that person who goes, that gun ran out of bullets, but it's still making the shootings. I don't
Oh,
notice
that's
things.
my husband. Yeah, that's why it's so annoying to watch stuff with him. He's like, "That's not realistic." I'm like, "Clearly."
But I became that person in this movie because there is a part where a guy well, they both have blowtorches and somehow never catch on fire. Although other people, and that's the other thing, is she was burning everyone in this town alive. I know, spoiler, sorry everybody, but it got to a point where she was doing all these things where I was finally to a point of, what did those people do to you? I mean, individually, I mean, granted, I understand that they were coming to kill you, but you came to their town. You invaded on their space. If you had kept your butt at home, you wouldn't be here. And nobody asked you to come here. You did this on your own. I feel like it's rude. And so that became a problem. But there's a part where there was the blowtorch. She went and got her blowtorch ran out of gas. So she went and got a fireman hose. And I happen to know, one, how heavy those are because I went to some demonstration where they were showing, and I was stunned at how heavy they are. But then when they're with the pumping of the water, how hard it is to hold them. But she was like carrying it over her shoulder.
Yeah.
That's 5'2" ballerina. So she weighs a buck 05, if that, carrying and managing a fire. I was just like, no. And that took me straight out the movie. But I do appreciate the little cameos of John Wick. Like for those of us who were like, but you said this was a John Wick movie. So it's like they gave enough of that for me to be like, okay. But my friend asked, was his dog in the movie? No, the dog was not in the movie. So, but that was all. How about you? You were on vacation. Did you watch anything or just watch the beautiful scenery?
No, we didn't really watch much of anything, but we do have a funny thing that we do on vacation where we'll end up in some kind of binge of a show, and this time it was Bar Rescue. It's always, like, either Bar Rescue or, like, Love It or List It or one of those
Yeah.
HGTV kinda shows. So, yeah, this time it was Bar Rescue. We got totally sucked in one morning, and, yeah, I just always laugh because like, that we do that on every vacation.
I'm thinking of sitting down and watching Love Island because apparently it's very dramatic. I'm sure all of it is. It's not really my jam, but sometimes I like some trash TV.
Oh,
But
I will say, so we were flying on United for the big flights, and on both flights out there, we had this really nice TV screen that's, like, built into the, headrest, and they
mm,
had this huge library of stuff that you could watch, just for free, like, you didn't have to pay anything
yeah.
else for it, and so I did watch a very silly movie. I think it's called You're Cordially Invited, and it had Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell, and
Oh yeah, that's on Amazon, I think.
okay, like, they each have, like, daughter or, like, somebody's
Mhm.
getting married in their
And
family.
they get booked on the same day.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it was very silly, but, like, it was a great pass the time kinda movie, and then I also watched Clueless and Back to the Future.
I'm trying to look up the movie that I saw on my last Delta flight. And I can see the actress's name, but I can't think of her. I mean, I can see her face, but I can't think of her name. And I'm trying to think of a movie. It's so funny because I always go to Muriel's wedding. She's been in so many things, but Toni Collette.
Oh, okay.
Toni Collette was in a movie that was so much fun. Mafia Mama. I have I have watched this movie about 2 or 3 times on flights because it is in fact, I think I'll watch it again. But it is so much fun. It is like that is my movie jam. I did learn a few years ago on flights never to watch Sex and the City. Sex and the City on, a rewatch at my age doesn't hit the same.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, it was such a great show years ago, but now it just doesn't hit the same, and it's just very uncomfortable, and it's like, "Nope, I can't have this on my screen sitting
Yeah.
next to these people,"
So
and have
strangers, yeah.
yeah, having people walk back and forth wondering, "What the hell is she watching?" Because they don't edit it. So it's just like, yeah, I can't watch this. But,
Yeah,
yeah.
on the way back, one of our flights didn't have anything, and I think that was the nighttime one, so we weren't really sleeping, but we rested, I would say.
Mhm.
And then the other one had more like a DirecTV kinda thing, so I just had, like, a Parks and Rec marathon on, but it still had commercials and all that, so I would, like,
Oh,
get annoyed and, like,
yeah.
not watch some of it when commercials were on.
So United has good, but Delta has good too. So
Yeah.
those are 2 airlines that do well with entertainment. I think there's another airline that has entertainment stuff, but they make you pay for the headphones. I don't know what it is. I've gotten to a point where I'll only fly Delta because I'm just terrified of being disappointed. If I'm gonna be in this tube for several hours, I want things to be a certain way, and I need consistency.
Oh, see, I usually fly Southwest because they have this huge hub here at BWI, so I was kinda like, "I don't know about this United thing," but it all worked out well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, welcome back home.
Yes, good to be back, everybody. Until next week.
Bye, guys.